Welcome to SFXOrgData by sfApex. My name is Gusha Patel, and today we'll be looking at how to use SFXOrgData to copy data from production to sandbox. Before we begin, let's talk a little bit about situations when SFXOrgData is useful for users. The main purpose of this tool is to copy data from one org instance to another. This can be production to sandbox or sandbox to sandbox. Although the application can be used to transfer data from a sandbox to production, we do not recommend using the application for this due to the criticality of production data. The most common reasons you want to use SFXOrgData are if you have one or just a few full sandboxes readily available, you want to develop code against live production data, you want to perform development testing or test out configuration changes against live production data, you want to keep the data in your full sandbox perfectly intact so that it mimics production, which is typically the case for a true QA environment, and also if you have development or maintenance release cycles that are less than the refresh limit on full sandboxes, which is 30 days. From a development lifecycle standpoint, you want to use SFXOrgData when you need to deploy a fix for a production issue and your full sandbox is currently being utilized by an ongoing project. You have several projects running simultaneously and need multiple environments. You have many developers, each requiring their own environment containing data to develop against, developing code which deletes or changes data which is irreversible. In all of these situations, you can start to utilize your developer or config-only sandboxes by copying production data to them to get through the development and testing. So let's start off by looking at the application. The first step in using SFXOrgData is logging into the source and destination org instances. The next step is to select the records you want to copy over. And finally, you want to click the Start Transfer button. To get started, go ahead and click on this Windows Start button, navigate to the All Programs, sfApex, and select the SFXOrgData menu item. Once you launch the application, you'll be presented with the SFXOrgData main window. From here, you can configure the options for the application, start the data transfer process, as well as log into the source and destination org. So to get started, let's go ahead and log into our source organization by clicking on the Login button. When we click the Login button, you'll be displayed with the Login form, which allows you to enter in your credentials for the source organization. You can define if you're connecting to a sandbox or to production. In our instance, we'll be connecting to a full sandbox, although we could also connect to a configuration-only or developer sandbox or to a production instance. You can also select if you want the application to remember your password. Once you've entered in your credentials, go ahead and click on the Login button. You'll notice that the connection status changed from not connected to connected, along with your user ID and the instance that you're logging into. So we'll go ahead and do the same for the destination org. For our destination org, we'll be connecting to a configuration-only sandbox. Now, once we've connected both our source and destination orgs, you'll notice that the transfer data and advanced transfer buttons get enabled. Let's go ahead and briefly cover what these two buttons are. When you click the big transfer button, the basic transfer wizard is displayed. The wizard is meant to be used by users who are new to the application or users who want to transfer data using the default application settings. Basic Transfer Wizard covers the core aspects of the application required to copy data between orgs. The first step is to log into the source and destination orgs, which we've already covered. The next step is to click the big transfer button. In doing so, you will be presented with the following three steps. The first step is resolving any circular references between objects. We'll cover this in more detail a little bit later on. The next step is to select the data you want to transfer. The final step is to click the Start Transfer button. After the transfer is completed, you can review any records which did not get copied over and optionally revise these records and try the transfer again. So let's see the basic transfer wizard in action. We'll start off by clicking on the big Transfer Data button. Once the Transfer Wizard window is open, the application will search for any circular references, and if found, will display the Insert Order window. In this window, you can view the insert order of objects, as well as resolve any circular references. The circular references are displayed in the circular reference list. We can resolve the circular reference by highlighting one of the objects and excluding it from being transferred. After all circular references are resolved, the circular reference list will disappear and the next button will be enabled. Before moving on, let's quickly touch on what circular references are and why they happen. If we look at our scenario, a circular reference occurred between the content document and content version objects. The reason for this is that the ID field for the content document record is referenced by the content document ID field on the content version record. Also, the ID field on the same content version record is being referenced by the content documents record field last published version ID. In this scenario, we can't insert the content document record first because the content version record doesn't exist. Adversely, we can't insert the content version record first because the content document record doesn't exist. This leads to having one of the objects excluded from being available to be copied over. In doing so, the object which is available to be copied over will not have its records referencing field updated. After clicking the Next button on the Insert Order window, you will be presented with the Data Filter window. Here you can select the records you want to copy to the destination org. Start off by selecting an object from the list of objects located at the top of the window. After selecting an object, the records for that object are displayed on the grid below. You can select individual records you want to copy over by checking the checkbox to the left of the record. You can include multiple records by highlighting the records using the Shift or Control key and then clicking the Include button. Optionally, you can also include child or grandchildren of the selected records. To do this, select the drop-down button for the Include Selected button, and it will be displayed with the list of menu items. Let's take a look at an example. In this scenario, suppose that you wanted to include the account records that you selected. In this case, you would highlight the account records you want to copy and click the Include button without using the drop-down menu. This would not include any related contact records or any records which reference the contact records. Now suppose that you did want to include the related contacts for the accounts you highlighted. In this case, you would select the Level 1 drop-down menu item which says Include Children. The relationship between account and contact is a master detail relationship. The next scenario is if you wanted to include the children of the child records as well. In this scenario, the application will include the contacts for the accounts you select, and also include the support cases for those contacts. Because every support case has a case status, defined as a lookup field on the support case object, the related case status record will also be included. Continuing the same concept, if you wanted to include the case history and email messages for the support cases, click the Level 3 drop-down menu item. Similarly, if you want to include the attachments for those email messages, click the Level 4 drop-down menu item. To achieve the same result, you could also click the Level N drop-down menu item to select all related object records for the highlighted accounts. If after you include the records, you decide that you don't want to copy those records into the destination, you can use the Exclude button to exclude the records from being copied over. If you want to include all the records displayed on the grid, use the Include All button. If you want to exclude all records displayed on the grid from being copied over, use the Exclude All button. If you want to include certain records from an object containing a lot of rows, we recommend that you use the Add Where clause button so that the application doesn't have to read through a lot of records when querying for the object records. To do this, click the Add Where clause button. This will open the filter window. In this window, you can define the field you want to filter on, a condition to be applied to the value, and the value you want to base the filter on. For example, we can select that we want to filter on sales less than $50,000. So, from the field drop-down list, we'll select the sales field. From the condition drop-down list, we'll select the less than symbol. For the value, we'll enter 50,000. Next, we'll click the Add button to add the filter. If you make a mistake and accidentally click the Add button, click the Remove button to remove the filter. You can add multiple filter conditions, but for this example, we'll use just one. You can click the Refresh icon button to view how many records will be returned which fit the filter criterions. In this case, we have a record count of 40,000 rows. You can click the Advance button to edit the Where clause directly. You can validate the syntax of the Where clause by clicking the Validate button. Use the Clear All button to clear out the Where clause and defined criterions. After you've got the Where clause defined, click the OK button, and you'll notice that the data grid only returns the records which fit the defined filter criterions. You'll also see the Where clause you defined in the highlighted box. Use the Query Included Only button to display records which have been previously included already. This is useful when you want to view just the included records for an object containing a lot of rows. A quick way to include all of the records for many different objects is to use the Include All Records for Multiple Objects button. Clicking this button will open a window where you can select the objects you want to include records for. You'll notice that you have a drop-down list here as well to select the level of related records you want to include. You can use the Save Filters to Directory button to save the IDs for the included records for all of the objects you've included records for to individual files. Each file uses the object name as its file name. This button is useful when you want to save the records you've included for use at a subsequent time when you want to copy the same records again. Use the Load Filters from Files button to read the IDs of records you want to include. Click this button to select the files containing the IDs. A window is displayed showing the files the application recognizes and is able to map to objects. Click the Load Filters button to include records from the files. Again, you can use the drop-down menu here to select the level of related records you want to include. The status is updated as each file's records are included. If you want to narrow down the records you're searching for on an object that doesn't have a lot of records, use the column header row on the data grid to filter on only the record values you're interested in. You can also group the records by dragging the column label to the blue bar at the top of the data grid. You'll notice that every time we include or exclude records, the gauge at the bottom of the window changes. You can see the total size of the records you've included under the Used label. If you exceed the size limit of the destination box, The size limit indicator will turn red, and the position itself relative to the size used. After you've selected the records you want to include, and the total size for the included record fits within the destination sandbox, the Next button becomes enabled. Click the Next button to continue to the final transfer window. In this window, you can view just the records you want to copy, you can start the data transfer process, and you can view the records that have been copied to the destination. To view the records that you want to copy, expand the Pending node. To view the list of objects you have included records for, click the individual object to view the included record. Once you're satisfied with the records you want to copy, click the Start Transfer Data button. While the application is copying the records, you can click the Log button to view the details of the data transfer process. After the data transfer process is completed, you can view the records which copied over successfully by expanding the Completed node and selecting an object. You'll notice that the new ID on the destination is displayed under the first column. You can also view the records which failed to copy over by expanding the Error node and selecting an object. You'll notice the first column displays the error specific to that record. For more information on troubleshooting common errors, please visit the sfApex website and view the topic called Troubleshooting Failed Records. After you've resolved any issues with the failed records, you can click the Retry Failed Records button to copy just the failed records to the destination. Alternatively, you can click the Save Error Records to Files icon button to save the IDs of the error records to individual files, which you can use later on to include those records back again. After you've completed the transfer process, click the Close button to close the basic transfer wizard. If you have any questions or would like more information, please visit our website at www.sfApex.com.